a slight grade, 5,000 RPM. This engine is having none of it. Fuel economy, 39.9 liters per 100 kilometers. That is atrocious. There really shouldn't be that much of a difference in towing performance, but the numbers don't lie, the cameras don't lie. Welcome back, I'm Alex, and with the winter weather seemingly behind us, it's freaking towing season, baby. And first on the docket is not the 3-liter TurboMAX, because we have that next week, and that should be a fantastic showdown. Today we have the 4-cylinder 2.7-liter TurboMAX in this truck, and I know, I've already towed with this engine, but there's a very important reason why I want to reassess this towing test. The 2.7-liter TurboMAX I had last summer had a check engine light. We have a good old check engine light right there. It was an evap code that just kept on coming back. So I've been thinking about this all winter, and it's rubbing me the wrong way. An evap code is technically an emission-related code, and to me it would make some sense that it could possibly derate some power from this engine. And well, the second big reason why I want to retest this is because this engine was garbage on my towing loop, bar none the worst half-ton engine I've towed on my towing loop. So could the two be related? Yes, this is a rather small engine. You might think that's why it performs so poorly, but when I towed with the 2.7-liter EcoBoost engine, that engine crushed my towing loop. I was really impressed with that engine's performance, and it got me thinking maybe the check engine light on the 2.7-liter TurboMAX really did affect its performance, and maybe, just maybe, this engine has more to give. You guys know the drill. This is my 8,000-pound enclosed trailer we use with every 1,500 we tow with. We use the same water weights in the same location, giving us the exact same tongue weight. We also tow the same 120-mile loop through the Appalachian Mountains, giving us a really good comparison between engine and engine. Now, despite this engine only having 4 cylinders to work with, the on-paper power figures are pretty decent. This thing's pumping out 310 horsepower, 430 pound-feet of torque, so it should pack a punch. Speaking of which, it's time for our off-the-line acceleration test. We go 0 to 50, put the truck in four-wheel drive and see how fast we can get there. It's a great way to showcase how well the engine can transfer its torque to the wheels under load. 3, 2, 1, to the floor. $50 right there. Take 2, 3, 2, 1, to the floor. Ooh. 50. So we did pick up a little bit of speed, but really nothing of significance. Still behind the 2.7-liter EcoBoost, but impressively still above some heavy-hitting V8 engines, including the 5-liter Coyote. So all that torque download does give this 4-banger a little bit of muscle. So we do have a shotgun rider with us today, so we do have to count for an extra, I don't know, 250-ish pounds. Anyways, as we drive this engine at city speed, slower speeds, again, going stoplight to stoplight, this engine does have some decent acceleration, but with most gasoline turbocharged engines, when towing a trailer, there is just a little bit of a lag when it comes to acceleration. Without a doubt, V8 engines, the throttle response is just a little bit crisper. But once this little engine hits that boost, it actually pulls pretty well. And speaking of pulling, it's time for our second acceleration test. We're gonna jump onto the highway here. We're gonna go 60 to 110 kilometers an hour to the floor. $100. 110. That was still very slow.
This is where the TurboMAX fell flat on its face last time with almost 20 seconds getting to speed. And well, this time isn't much different. In fact, we're actually a little bit slower. And you can see every other 1500 engine pulls significantly harder. But what's most substantial in my mind is the 2.7-liter EcoBoost getting to speed almost 55% faster with the same engine displacement.
Like we always do, we got our cruise control set to 110 kilometers an hour, roughly 70 miles an hour. We got the truck in tow haul mode, and we will just let the truck do its thing. Currently, we're revving pretty high on flat ground, but we'll see what happens. There's two things I really like to look at when it comes to these gas turbocharged engines. First of all is RPM control. The second big thing I want to look at is fuel economy. With these gas turbocharged engines, when they're under load, they guzzle fuel. And last time, this engine, despite only being 2.7 liters of displacement, it had pretty bad fuel economy. In fact, every V8 engine I've towed with had significantly better fuel economy than this small turbocharged engine. So we'll also keep an eye on that, see if we get any improvement. Here's our first little hill. This should tell us a lot. Last time we were at like 5,000 RPM, and we're back there. Okay, so here's our first real hill. It's very long, but the grade's not that steep. Typically, the engines don't have to rev that high. We're at 4,100 RPM, let's call it, keeping speed at 110. And this is sort of in the ballpark of a bunch of engines. Whoa! Okay, we just dropped to 5,000 RPM. We're losing speed. We're at 107, 108. Last time with the engine, with the check engine light, we didn't have to downshift to 5,000 RPM. So it seems like the engine, this engine with no check engine light, is having to work harder. This thing is just working. Wow. The max tow rating on the 2.7 liter TurboMAX is a impressive 9,500 pounds. Now with this specific configuration of truck, that figure drops to 9,000 pounds, which is still pretty impressive out of a 4-cylinder turbocharged engine. But I question whether or not this engine can actually tow that much weight, because last time when we had my 8,000 pound trailer behind this engine, it struggled mightily. However, the 2.7 liter EcoBoost has a max tow rating of only 8,000 pounds.
That's actually not true. It's 8,400 pounds.
The truck that I specifically tow with had a max tow rating of only 7,500 pounds. So technically that truck was actually overweight and yet still crushed that towing loop. So with an engine that has an extra 1,500 pounds of max towing capacity, you would expect it to have much greater performance than that 2.7 liter EcoBoost, but the opposite was true there. My point is that if this 2.7 liter TurboMAX engine struggles once again, maybe the max tow rating is a little bit inflated to what the real world towing performance actually shows. All right, we're 43.5 kilometers in, a slight grade, 5,000 RPM. This engine is having none of it. Fuel economy, 39.9 liters per 100 kilometers. That is atrocious. That's like 5.5 miles per gallon, under 6 miles per gallon. We started with a full tank of gas. We're creeping onto a half tank. Well, here's our second hill. We're gaining speed currently, 4,000 RPM. See if we can maintain our gear here if we're gonna have to downshift again. There it is, 55,000 RPM, 5,100 RPM. Yeah. She is not a happy camper with this big trailer behind it. Just seems like any kind of wind resistance with a decent load, this is the end result. Just a lot of revs. We made it to the halfway point. We are definitely going to be filling up with fuel, 91 kilometers driven. We got almost less than a quarter tank, so we're gonna be dumping some fuel in this thing because we're not making it back. 39.9 liters per 100 kilometers. I almost wonder if that's like the max that gauge will go, because I suspect we're chugging more fuel than that. A little bit of weight back there. Axles are a little jacked up. We're gonna take all of this fuel because this engine's burning all of it. We're fueled back up, we're rolling. Here's our first little hill in the backstretch. Downshift, 4,000 RPM. Downshift, as you guys guessed, 5,000 RPM, and we'll ride this all the way up. Here's another hill, shocking, back at 5,000 RPM. I think we can pretty conclusively say that the check engine light on our last engine, or the lack of the check engine light on this engine, really has made no difference on this towing loop. I think this engine just might not be powerful enough to tow my 8,000-pound trailer on my towing loop effectively, and that's where things get a little bit interesting for me, at least. I keep bringing up the 2.7L EcoBoost because that engine's putting out 325 horsepower, 400 pound-feet of torque.
So putting these engines side by side, we can see the power outputs here, and well, if we combine the power outputs, we can see that the TurboMAX actually has a slight advantage over the EcoBoost. But looking at the drive line, you could argue that maybe the TurboMAX actually has a slight disadvantage versus the 10-speed and the 355 gears. But what's really substantial is the tow rating being so much higher than the EcoBoost, yet the EcoBoost being a much better towing engine on my towing loop, at least.
Is GM maybe inflating the power numbers of this engine, or is potentially Ford actually underrating their 2.7-liter EcoBoost power figures, because there really shouldn't be that much of a difference in towing performance, but the numbers don't lie, the cameras don't lie. Let me know what you guys think, why this TurboMAX is so behind the EcoBoost. Once again, we're on some pretty flat road here, maybe a little bit of an incline, and you know, we're revving at 4,000 RPM here. The engine is having to work very hard. Let me know if you guys own one of these engines, what you think when towing with them. I mean, around town with this load, it felt just fine, but at these highway speeds with going through these hills, it just feels like the engine's a little bit overmatched. Let me bring you in here. That's our final fuel economy, 39.9 liters per 100 kilometers. Not great, and I suspect it's even higher than that. I just think that gauge is maxed out for whatever reason. GM probably never thought that they would have to go much higher. I guess we can say that the check engine light 6 months ago with our 2.7-liter TurboMAX really didn't affect our towing test, because this engine, as we saw, was pretty much the same, maybe even a little bit worse. If you did like the video, don't forget to leave that thumbs up. And next week, like I mentioned, we have the 3-liter DuraMax, which we will be putting on our towing loop, maybe doing a fuel economy loop. Pretty excited to see how that engine shapes up in comparison to the rest of the 1500 platforms. But enough of me. We'll see you in the next freaking video.